History remembers the facts, but what about the phantoms that refuse to be forgotten? Welcome back to The Common Historian, where history meets the supernatural. I'm Jeremy, and tonight we're taking a different journey through New England's haunted landscape. Instead of chasing ghosts through dusty corridors, we're exploring how centuries of supernatural folklore transformed into the thriving Halloween industry we know today. I'm joined by Alexandra De Collibus, owner of Halloween New England, the region's premier resource for everything spooky, spanning all six New England states. So grab your favorite beverage, dim the lights, and prepare to discover how the ghosts of our past became thrills of our present. Welcome, Alexandra.
Thank you for having me.
Excited to chat with you tonight. What sparked your passion for Halloween and led you to create Halloween New England?
Well, I'd say my interest in this genre of Halloween is really rooted in horror. When I was a kid, I grew up going to the video store, renting videos, and I was kind of left to my own devices. What do you want to rent? I just always gravitated towards those incredibly cool, very intriguing pictures of the VHS in front of the videos at the video store. And so I was really pulled towards those horror imagery, I think. I was pretty young to be watching a lot of horror. I watched it on my own. I didn't have anyone introduce it to me, like an older sibling or a friend. I just found it so fascinating. This darker side, the spookier side, something I hadn't been exposed to. It really pulled me in at a young age, and I was a voracious reader. Once I got my hands on some young adult horror novels, it was like a match made in heaven, the idea of horror and me who read everything I could get my hands on. So that is really where it all started for me. Growing up in New England, Halloween as a kid, a lot of anticipation for what's my costume going to be, how exciting it will be, the candy, just the idea of Halloween is so intriguing. And the reality became a lot of whatever costume you can pull together at the last second and you throw a heavy coat on because it freeze out. So you can't even see the costume anyway. And I felt like, when I think back to my childhood Halloween memories, they're not bad, but they're not real special in that way. As I got older and I discovered going to haunted houses, that whole world of thrill seeking, the spooky and the startles really got my adrenaline flowing. I was very drawn to the thrill experience of the season as an adult. As somebody who wanted to see what was in my area, where can I go? Where can I find these things? I just found, 12 years ago when I started Halloween New England, I really found that the way that information came to me was lacking. There were some directories online that listed haunted attractions, but a lot of the information was out of date or they weren't very pleasant websites to be on. They had a lot of flashing and blinking. It was very busy and not a lot of accurate information. I just took it into my own hands and decided to solve my own problem by creating a directory of Halloween events, attractions, and ghost tours, and all the good things that make these six New England states really alive at this time of year. I was organized, and instead of just keeping it for myself, share it with everyone else to enjoy.
I grew up in Vermont, so I remember going trick-or-treating in a winter coat.
I think that's the drawback, right? Like fall in New England is wonderful, but by the time the end of October rolls around, it is cold and we are in our winter
Yes.
coats.
So, how did you identify the gap in the market that Halloween New England fills?
Don't know if I fully appreciated at the time more broadly that there was as much of a gap as there was. I think initially it was much more selfish reasons, which is I don't find these websites pleasant. I don't find them useful. The information's out of date. Like it was really just out of annoyance that I couldn't get my hands on the information. Through the 12 years, I've seen, of course, a lot of things evolve in the way that people get information. Google certainly is the place people go. You go to
Yeah.
Google, you try to find something. But even that is very limited. It's limited to presenting the things that might hit the keywords you mentioned, the things that have been around the longest, the things that You might be paying for an ad to get that information to you. It becomes a little too narrow what's presented to you. So you're not able to get your full arms around the scope of what is available. If you are a community haunted attraction, maybe you have a haunted trail that's only open for a weekend. If you are doing an event that is only happening for one night and it's super special or a fundraiser, those are never going to show up in your Google results. They're not around long enough. They don't have enough presence. Google is going to reward those attractions, tours, or experiences that are the heavy hitters that have been around the longest. It's very hard for something smaller, more grassroots to get on the radar on Google. Halloween New England, in some ways, kind of cuts out that problem. I'm taking all of that information and research and putting it into one place, bypassing Google in that way. Search for Halloween events. You might come to Halloween New England on Google, but when you arrive at Halloween New England, that's where you're going to see 2,500 Halloween events across 6 New England states, 400 Halloween attractions and tours. You will never find that amount of information on Google if you spent the entire month of October searching for it. I would just put in a word for, because this is something that we really weren't contending with a couple of years ago, which is people using things like ChatGPT to try to do research for them. I would just caution people that that information is also not very accurate. I have, from time to time, I will go in just to see what ChatGPT is populating for me if I ask the same kinds of questions I might ask Google. I live in the stew of Halloween events and Halloween event research in this area. I'm an expert at it in the sense that I am working on it year round and for many years. At a glance, I can tell that the information that ChatGPT is giving is sometimes they're presenting information from an event that has discontinued. As someone who knows the industry and the events in the area, I can see at a glance that information is often not correct, but it will present it as correct, which is a risk. An unexpected thing about Halloween New England in these years is the fact that we are human powered as a website. The fact that our Halloween events are not populated by Google, they're populated by a human. So I am personally researching everything you see from year to year. So there might be an event that does happen annually. So I might go back to the 2024 dates, research it and make sure things are the same for 2025. And then it populates on Halloween New England. Have they changed their ticket prices? Have they changed locations? Do they have a new theme for how they're presenting their event? All of that is going to go through my eyes and my comparison before you see it published on Halloween New England. It's super human powered in a lot of ways. What I'm able to do as a person is really getting the information in a way that you can't fully get through systems like Google.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to research both Google and I've used, ChatGPT, Claude. A lot of their information seems to be, you can't get the here and now. It's more maybe 3, 4, or 5 months ago's information.
Yeah.
I can really relate to that.
And I'll even say, it's not to spend too much time on
Yeah.
AI searches. However, I do think it's because this is something that people are using now, oftentimes for the first time. Maybe this is their first Halloween season, thinking that they can rely on it. I do think it's actually worth understanding how it just isn't accurate. One event, as I mentioned, that I saw that was discontinued, I thought, that event hasn't happened since 2021. And they're presenting it as one of the best things you can do this year. They present that information with dates that you could go right now. And I thought, that person who used to offer that event is going to have people showing up.
There.
Somebody might plan an out-of-state trip or book a hotel to do an overnight for that really unique event. What I find also very interesting is when you ask ChatGPT to cite where they're getting the information, they're often just sending you to Halloween. So you might as well go for the straight stuff.
Yeah.
Mainline Halloween New England. It'll solve that for anyone coming to this area.
How do you see New England's rich supernatural history influencing today's Halloween attractions?
Well, the most obvious way is the many ghost tour companies that have popped up around New England. There's a lot of beautifully run, thriving ghost tour companies and tour guides in the area. I think the coastline, that we have available to us, there's so much haunted history related to the sea and bodies of water. you will see a number of ghost tours just populating Coast Maine all the way, of course, through Salem and Plymouth, Cape Cod, like all of Rhode Island, all of these areas. You kind of work your way down the coast, and you will find wonderful ghost tour companies that are, really bringing those haunted legends related to our area. And those are often year-round companies that you will see who just, again, really thrive. People who love this stuff, love it year-round. It's not relegated to a season of the year. One thing you will see a little bit more seasonally, I find, is more historical societies that are starting to draw interest to the area, where they will have a certain, they'll do a cemetery walk, or they'll bring people to a burial ground and talk about the history in that area. So they're inviting people to connect with their local history, while at the same time bringing, connecting. I think it can be a challenge sometimes for historical societies to connect in a more contemporary way with a younger audience, using the haunted history or the legends that have taken place in this area, or using these beautiful burial grounds that are just so rich in history. They're very well suited to connecting to that audience that they may not be connecting to the rest of the year. So I love seeing those things pop up. I feel like every year I'm adding more and more of those kinds of tours. You'll see a lot of events like that now, just annual. You see them come back year after year. To me, that tells me that, yes, they're trying something, but there's enough reason to do it again. I see, well, again, this is kind of the benefit of having my personal eyes on these events and
Yeah.
updating them year to years. I actually can see, oh, this place in Wellfleet used to just have 1 or 2 weekends, and now they're doing the whole month every weekend. You can see the growth of these events in smaller communities. It wouldn't happen if there weren't enough interest to warrant expansion the next year. I love seeing that. I love that. To me is very grassroots. Again, just to reiterate, you're never going to see those things on a Google search because they're just so temporary. They're really very community focused. But one place you would be able to find that is on my site. They're gems. You shouldn't have to live in a community already to see a flyer at your local coffee shop. You should be able to see, oh, this is what's going on within a 50-mile radius. I want to go check this out. Our zip code search is going to make something like that possible for people.
You talk about the ghost tours from Maine all the way to Rhode Island. That would be the ultimate road trip for me.
You can plan it on Halloween New England. One of the things I'm very proud of with Halloween New England, and I've worked closely with their website developer, because I don't know my way around code at all. We have built it to make it as useful as possible. As I mentioned, kind of alluding to the zip code search, that'll tell you what's in a certain area that you're in. But we have these maps that plot out, for example, you can filter it just by the ghost tour companies. So you could filter it by ghost tour companies, and it'll show you maps of different New England states and populate where those are. So for example, if you were to do
Yeah.
along the coast, you could start in Bar Harbor, and we'll work our way down, and we'll work our way down the coast, and you can find all of that information. Some people are visual, and so they really do want to just kind of like plot and visually see like what's happening in this part. Or there's a lot of weddings at this time of year. It's so beautiful in October. I'm going to be in New Hampshire for a wedding. What's going on that weekend that we're there? What's happening at that time? A lot of people will kind of come to Halloween New England looking locally, what's happening near them. And then once they, start to see the possibilities more broadly, they begin to think about doing a road trip. What does a weekend look like in Connecticut? Can we do things during the day and then do more things at night? I see a ton of people from New York who look into our area during the fall. So Halloween New England gets a ton of traffic from New York residents who are looking for things in our area, which is clearly going to be a weekend trip, not necessarily just going in for the day.
Have you noticed certain historical locations or legends that consistently draw Halloween events?
Such a good question. Anything to do with the witch trials in Salem, but also the witch trials in Connecticut. I will say there's more energy of bringing some of that Connecticut witch trial history to the forefront. I am seeing more events every year, more presentations, lectures about it, just really inviting people to become educated on their history beyond what people associate with Salem. I live in Massachusetts, so I would say the Bridgewater Triangle is always intriguing for folks in this area. that definitely comes and goes. Sometimes I'll see a year where there's a lot of about the Bridgewater Triangle, and then there's like a couple of years in a row that you never see anything about it. There's a couple wonderful historians in this area who really focus on haunted history, and they do a ton of events throughout September and October. They do it year round. There's like a particular author that comes to mind, Jeff Belanger, and he is constantly doing events in this area, doing presentations and really bringing it into the community. A lot of that is rooted in New England history. He covers around the states, but he emphasizes the New England history part of it. There's a group called the Gravestone Girls, and they go to different libraries and research a particular area. So let's say they're going to, I don't know, Brewster, Mass. They will go and research gravestone history in Brewster, Massachusetts, and then go to the Brewster Library and do a presentation for people in the community. I think that is
Yeah.
a nice way, and they may not even be coming at it to approach Brewster. It's essentially like the library contacts the Gravestone Girls to try to bring that. So I see a lot of history comes up through libraries. Libraries are a wonderful channel for finding those haunted history presentations. A lot of that stuff can be offered. You can access it, virtually through Zoom. Those library presentations are really nice. But yeah, as far as certain areas, what's the other ones? Obviously, Lizzie Borden. Anything
Yeah.
Lizzie Borden.
Yeah.
There's a musical called Lizzie about Lizzie Borden that has made the rounds in this area quite a bit. It seems every year there's productions of Lizzie going on somewhere in New England. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 productions in various states that are going on. So that absolutely, persists as story, a person's story that people really connect with.
So with 2,500 Halloween events annually, how do you and your team discover and vet new experiences?
It's complicated. I think the easiest answer is that because I'm researching things every year, I start my research in May because that's usually the earliest I see things populated for the fall. Starting in May, I put in a ton of time going through my database of these events, seeing what's been updated, seeing what comes across my radar. I would say by the time I get to September, there's a lot of things that weren't there previously, brand new events that start to cross my radar. And sometimes by September, we often will figure out where we're going. We'll plan where the team goes for the season. We'll do that planning at the end of July, mid-July. So if I'm coming across events in September for the first time, it can be tricky to fit them in. What I'll often do is make a little note to myself. I'll add them to the site, keep an eye on it, follow their social media, see what kind of buzz is going on around new events. And the next year, I'll think, are they coming back? Are they doing it again? At that point, I will probably say, all right, that's worth trying to send someone to. And how do we choose it? It's something different. It has some angle that we haven't seen before. Maybe it's in a part of a state that doesn't have a lot of events typically. We want to shine a light on different communities that we're maybe not able to get to because there's not enough to choose from to warrant us going for a weekend in a certain area. So we really try to, with 6 states, I didn't think that part through. Years ago, researching events from a computer for 6 days is completely different from attending events. It is very complicated every weekend to send people from the team who's going to Maine this weekend, who can do this in New Hampshire, what part of New Hampshire, how many things are happening in New Hampshire in a certain area so that they can make their home base in this city. And then can they go to these events? A lot of times it's just maximizing. For example, if I send Rachel to Northern New Hampshire, what is the best weekend where she can see the most amount of things that are open at that particular weekend that she's there, that are within an hour's drive from whatever that home base is, things happening during the day, things happening at night, some things that have a scary angle, some things that have a spooky angle, some things that are family friendly or pumpkin focused. So try to have a nice balance of places that we're visiting every weekend. So we're not just doing all thrills or all ghost tours, but really having a good blend of what we're covering, what we're showcasing. It's always been very important to us to walk the walk in terms of encouraging. We've always encouraged people, what are you doing this weekend? We did 6 things. Anything? You should do 5 things this weekend. Kind of, not just saying like, what are you going to do this weekend? Pick one thing, but showing people There's such a density and wealth of Halloween events and attractions in this region of the country. You don't have to limit yourself to one thing. You really can make a full day of it. You can do a few events in a day or a weekend. There's lots around, and Halloween New England's designed to make that easy. And so as you know, the wider, the people who work with Halloween New England for the season, we're really looking to show people this is how we do it. This is how you can do it. You loved that we saw these 5 things this weekend. You can plan that exact road trip for yourself the following weekend and see those same things. Showing the possibilities is a lot of what we're doing, not just covering and shining a light on all events, whether they're free events, community events, professional attractions, but also encouraging people to get out, go to a pumpkin pie contest, or get their costume on and go to a Halloween party or a parade. There's really something for everyone. Not everyone thinks of Halloween as their favorite holiday, or perhaps they think of it just as trick-or-treating, and it's much broader than that. It's just there are things for thrill seekers. There are things who loves, haunted history, people who are really, pulled towards the paranormal, who want to go on an overnight investigation at a castle in Vermont. And these things are all over. And for some people, they just want to see jack-o'-lanterns lit up at night, and that is their magic. There really is something for everyone at every age. I think that's the beauty of this season. It's not one night of the year. It's not really even October. It's the whole fall. I think it's pretty understood that the day after Labor Day is when Halloween season kicks in officially. And it goes until mid-November. It really does go for a full 8 or 10 weeks.
Oh yeah, I was starting to think about decorating like mid-September. So
I do think I've seen more decorations go up earlier this year. Right around Labor Day, I don't always see decorations going up quite that early, but this year I did, which I love it. I love that people are ready. They're into it.
how do you balance featuring the established attractions with uncovering those hidden gems?
You have to be mindful of it. You have to make it a priority that you are covering your bases. If I'm planning a schedule, that's part of why the schedule of our event visits is so complicated. It's why we started so early in July. We look ahead, we've got our printed calendar. Where are we going to go? Who's free on this weekend in September? Are you free to do an overnight, or do you have to sleep in your own bed? And so you have to be within driving distance. Some of it is dictated by who can get where. Again, having a balance, there's different types of events that are around in September. For example, a lot of haunted houses are not open in early September, but by October 1st, almost everybody's open. And so there's lots to choose from. How do we balance it? I just always have an eye towards that. I don't want everything we do to always have to cost money. I want people to realize how accessible the season is, how accessible events are. I do always want to have an eye on what looks like a robust enough event that if I presented on Halloween New England as, this looks really intriguing, what an interesting event this is, go check it out next weekend. I always have in the back of my mind that there could be somebody who says, hey, honey, let's drive up to Maine and go to that event this weekend. And to me, I just always have in the back of my mind that whatever I put out could spark somebody to drive a pretty sizable distance, get a hotel to stay there and to experience that. I want to make sure that whatever I'm putting out there is going to be worth someone's time. Even if that event is free, I want to know that there's enough that it's not like you walk in and 20 minutes later, you're like, I cannot believe we drove all the way up here. I really do want to make sure that we're presenting a diversity of things. As far as events that we attend, I would say, for example, this weekend, a number of us will be in Connecticut. We'll be seeing a whole bunch of different things. That will be an opportunity for us to see events that we don't know much about. Is that something that is a 20-minute walkthrough, or actually you would be there for a couple hours, spend some money, and love what they have to sell? We can fill in the gaps of our bigger events that we're committed to that weekend by vetting and seeing what's happening on the ground. A lot of what we do, I really look at as like boots on the ground, not taking an event description at its face. I think people can write elaborate impressive descriptions about their event or attraction. But I also know from experience that you got to see it for yourself. You really don't know until you see it for yourself. One thing you will find with us is we will present, like when we go to an event, we're presenting authentic pictures of things that we saw. Our one real pet peeve as a team is when we've all had this experience where we thought, oh my God, that looks so cool. We can't wait to go to that. That looks amazing. Did you see the pictures? Did you see their website? And then you go to the event and you're like, this doesn't look at all like what that website was presenting to me. I know that everyone wants to put their best foot forward, but it's hard to underscore how disappointing that is as someone who attends the event. I'd rather just be surprised by how wonderful something is, not set up for disappointment.
Yeah.
And so I really think that events should present themselves pretty accurately. One of the ways that we can get a real assessment is by seeing it for ourselves, not taking things at face value.
Can you tell us about your street team? How do they contribute to the Halloween New England experience?
Yeah, they are the boots on the ground. For many years, it was just me trying to run the website, keep things updated, push out promotions and let people know what's going on. And then somehow driving to 6 states all the time to see these things. It's still just as crazy as that. But I felt like I was not doing enough. I was not doing right by some parts of New England. I just couldn't get there. It was just too far. There might not be a lot of housing in that area to even do an overnight. There were restrictions, and I felt like I was not fulfilling what I wanted to do in terms of showcasing every corner of these 6 states in this region. So once the team started to grow, that was the missing piece in the puzzle for me about what was finally going to make Halloween New England the value it really ought to be for people beyond the website, to be those eyes and ears, understanding the industry and the events that are going on and being true experts on what's happening in this area. The team is incredible. It's when I refer to the street team, I think of the people who are going out into these events and they're covering them. They're getting content. They're reporting back to me. They're my eyes and my ears. They're saying, yes, we went to this vendor fair and it was so cool. We went to this one and it had a lot of the same people we've seen at the other ones, maybe not as distinctive as we had hoped. We don't put reviews about places we've been. We really just try to present, this is where we've been. This is what it looked like. These are the aspects that we noticed about it or something we love that made it really distinctive. We really try to capture it accurately after an event. We are always looking to champion the full range of what's going on in this area. We're not looking with a critical eye. We're really looking for the best of what each event or attraction has to offer and to understand what makes them special and to emphasize their strengths in that way. The team is wonderful. We all have our own things that we love. The team started to grow with people who love haunted houses and thrill-seeking, type things. We've grown to have more people who love daytime pumpkin festivals and things like that. This season, we're emphasizing going to a few more pumpkin festivals than we might normally do, trying to get to a different range of things. We have someone on our team who loves to do anything Salem, Halloween parties and dressing up in costumes. She's really into that aspect of the experience. And some of us are not as into that. So it's helpful to have a nice mix of people with different interests on the team who, their one common denominator is that they just love this area. They're New Englanders and they love this area. They know what is around and they want to share that with other people, share their enthusiasm. And they genuinely care about what people in the community are doing to try to bring people together, to give people a special experience. My team is not just about checking off events. They're looking to understand an event, to really support what's going on at every level, to see ourselves as champions of shining a light on what's happening in our area. A lot of these things might be at a local farm, doing a Halloween event or a pumpkin festival. It might be through a library or a recreation department doing a community jack-o'-lantern walk, or a lot of historic properties, that don't get younger groups in. You might do something that has more of a spooky twist at a certain time of year. It's like all of a sudden you're going to ghost tours at Edith Wharton's home in Lenox, Massachusetts, finding ways of really connecting people to what's already here.
So, how does the Halloween culture differ across the six New England states?
How does it differ? I don't know. I will say something, I don't know if it differs, but it's kind of the opposite question, which is something I think might surprise people if you do not know much about this area or Halloween events. Let's say you live in Ohio or Texas and you're coming to this area, you might be surprised to learn that by my estimation, 95% of Halloween events and attractions are outdoors, which for an area that, there's a risk of rain, it might be cold, all kinds of inclement weather, people might be surprised to know how dedicated our area is to bringing in the natural aspects of the season into the atmosphere of their event. So I realize I'm flipping your question on its head.
I
I would say that's not obvious. I think that would be a not obvious thing. Find that if I ever get out of New England at this time of year, I find that outside of New England, there are a lot of events and attractions that are indoors. And I think, how do you kind of create the environment that people really expect? People just naturally in this area, they think like, oh, you want to be outside, like to hear the leaves, see the leaves falling and crunching, see the farm turning into color, the crispy corn stalks at a flashlight corn maze. You want to be under the moonlight. Like I think that our area, without even realizing it, almost as intentionally, they know that this is this is a season meant to be spent outdoors. That's what we love. It's meant to be under a tree, like our
yeah.
logo has. It's not to say there aren't some indoor events, and there are some great indoor events, but that is not by far the norm. You should not be deterred by weather. It's just weather. I've been on many a ghost tour in the rain. I've been at haunted houses in a downpour. Just throw on a coat, dry off later. I don't know if that differs, but I would say like sometimes language might differ. In Maine, they often call their haunts haunted walks as opposed to haunted trails. That's a
No.
language thing that's a little bit different. The style of the experience might vary from place to place, but for the most part, each state is motivated by the same things and they're just presenting it in their own way. Some places that have more farms, like more rural states, are going to have more farm events. That would be something that is distinctive. There's many
Okay.
more farm-related events that are going on in Vermont and New Hampshire than Rhode Island.
What misconceptions do people have about Halloween tourism industry as a whole?
I think the misconception is that it is relegated to October. You just have to open your eyes to see that people are putting up Halloween decor in September, to see that there's Halloween decor being sold in July at home goods stores. It has grown not just as a holiday and as a season, but it has grown to be much more year round than people might realize. This is the first year that Halloween New England presented a Halfway to Halloween guide, which Halfway to Halloween, if you don't know, are events that are often happening at around the 6-month mark. Let's say somewhere between April to June would be considered a Halfway to Halloween. We see more Halfway to Halloween events. By the time we get to mid-June, really, there's a whole Summerween season, which I don't think people were saying 2 or 3 years ago. Now we very much are. We had a Summerween event guide this year for the first time, and it did gangbusters. People were absolutely flocking to that guide on Halloween New England. It was a guide that presented all of the Halloween events going on between June and August that had a spooky twist. It could have been an outdoor horror movie series, a special ghost tour, a cemetery walk, or a haunted house that might open for Friday the 13th. Anything that would normally be on Halloween New England, but was happening in June, July, or August, went into the summer guide, and it did such incredible traffic. So it is a misconception that
Yeah.
this is a short season. It is very much, people who love this aesthetic, are intrigued by haunted history, love a ghost tour, love to go on a paranormal investigation, love a horror movie. People love that year round. It's not a seasonal enjoyment. It is something that they are seeking out year round. I can't speak for the rest of the country, but there's a robust selection of things to choose from year round if you love those kinds of things. You can really find them on Halloween New England. I didn't used to need to do research for those. And now I actually have to put a lot of time into it because they exist. There's something to actually present there for people.
Oh, yeah. For the common historian, it's Halloween all year round.
Oh, and Krampus, that's such a big thing. That was coming on probably before the summer stuff. Krampus events, haunted attractions are extending their season with something in December. Some places will open up in February for Valentine's Day. Things that did used to be strictly like haunted attractions that did strictly used to be their Halloween season, end of September throughout October. If they have an opportunity, if they have the resources to open up for some holiday and put a twist on it to get people to come in the off season, they do. If you are an indoor attraction, there aren't that many indoor haunted attractions in New England, but those that are, absolutely no, because they have access to be able to present something and keep things up. They absolutely take advantage of that. Those Valentine's themed scary experiences.
I first started YouTube last December and I did a whole bunch of Christmas shorts. And like mid-July, there was a spike of people watching them.
I'll even say the last 3 years, I've noticed more scary Christmas themed attractions at haunted attractions, especially those haunted houses or haunted trails that have multiple events at their location. I can think of 5 that I've been to in the past 3 years that one of their, let's say 4 attractions, one of them is a scary Christmas themed one, like a sinister Santa and bloody, gory, decorations, stuff that used to just be Krampus related. They might do a December twist. You now actually see that as a theme happening in October.
How do you help visitors plan their perfect New England Halloween experience across multiple states?
The tools on the website are there to help people do that. And there's a couple pathways to do that. If you like a certain type of thing, let's say you love ghost tours, you want to do them in the state that you want to go to. Some people will choose a challenge every year. They're like, this is the year we're going to do a corn maze in every New England state. And so if you choose a challenge, like I want to go to a ghost tour in every New England state, you could go to Halloween New England. You would select, Vermont ghost tours. You'd see all the ghost tours available. You'd go to New Hampshire, find the ghost tours there, pick the ones, and then you could sort of plot it out. So you could find by state all the ghost tours in that area, all the pumpkin patches in an area, or all the Halloween events, or all the costume stores, for example, in a certain state. So you can go about it state by state. If you are going to many states, instead of choosing a certain type of event like ghost tours or haunted houses, if you wanted to do a variety of things, you could say, let's plug in that zip code for that area and see what events are going on. The zip code guide is more useful for events coming up on the sooner end of the, it's like a little bit more like what's happening sooner. It's more curated to that particular, radius around where that zip code is. That is certainly one way to do it. I'm fond of going to the maps. If you click on Massachusetts, it's going to have a map on that page, an attraction map. And you can see like, oh, this area has a lot of dots in this particular area of Southeast Massachusetts. Let me zoom in and I can click on those dots and see, that's a ghost tour that's going on here. And you can see areas of density for attractions. That might be a nice way if you're thinking, I want to go, but again, the wedding idea, let's say you're going to a wedding in a certain area, you can zoom in and see what's happening in that area and round it out with events. Another way is you can follow our socials. We do mention where we're going every week, but we also highlight our top picks every week during the season. Starting in mid-September, we push out our top event picks for the upcoming week. We make sure we hit things in every state that are worth people's attention. Once we get to probably the second week in October, there's enough events that are just so much variety to it that we'll do a Northern New England top picks, and Southern New England top picks. Those are usually posted on Monday or Tuesday to give you time to plan ahead. Halloween New England, in case I wasn't clear, like all of these attractions, there's information about where they are. You can find links to tickets, links to their website, hours and dates. You can find pictures of them. There's a lot of information on Halloween New England. It's meant so that you can browse and search and shop your way through how you would like to enjoy your weekend. It's very convenient if you are a Halloween tourist or you're someone who's going to be in New England during the fall season. It's meant to be easy, even if you are not a local, to find your way around and find things that are happening where you'll be.
So, looking ahead, where do you see New England's Halloween industry heading in the coming years?
I can only imagine it will keep expanding year round. That is absolutely the trend, and it's going at rocket speed. Every year, so many more off-season events, meaning events that are happening outside of September, October, are added. So I do see that. I can't imagine it's going to go backwards in that direction. I do see the season expanding. I see Summerween becoming bigger every single year. I think there is a little bit of an understanding, what I've noticed, that there's a bit of an understanding among event producers that October can be noisy in terms of how many things are happening. And there is an incentive, actually, to offer things in September more than October and just have it be a Halloween event, to offer them into November. Sometimes getting out of the month of October for an event producer, speaking from the industry side, I think there
Yeah.
was a real incentive to look at other months of the year outside of October because you'll have less competition. You might get more attention because you are unique at that time of year, or there's fewer things like what you're offering at that time of year. I have seen a trend of people who were offering certain events that were kind of like spooky season events, but didn't have to be Halloween per se. Initially offered in late October, closer to Halloween. The following year, they moved it to the beginning of October, moved into September, and had better response because people were eager. From the traffic I see for Halloween New England, like people are ready. When by the time Labor Day comes, like people are ready. So they'll jump on whatever's available to do. You just have to have it around. They have to know it exists. That's what I do. Let people know that it exists. I would be interested to see how much it will bleed into August. I'll be
Curious if
the
it'll go
direction
that
it goes.
that way.
Yeah, or take advantage of November more. I don't know how much it's bled into September. September is just part of the season. But it makes sense that it might bookend on either side, extend
Yeah.
it more. I see things go into November more every year. Haunts, it's almost standard that haunts will be open through the first weekend in November, sometimes even the second. One thing I've seen more of recently is more horror themed escape rooms year round. I
Yeah.
find that very interesting to have a spooky or scary experience, but they're not just like seasonal offerings at an escape room company. They are year-round horror, and they might have interactive elements. They might even have an actor, like a haunt actor in that escape room. They have jump scares, and that's really intriguing to me. I think the more people know about it, the more people will jump on that. I'm excited to do events like that don't have to be relegated to September and October. I'm thrilled to be able to do some of those horror escape games in November. I cannot wait to be able to go up and do them. I'd be interested to see if that grows. I think it could have real legs.
Anything that you'd like to share with the Common Historian subscribers and everyone else watching?
I would encourage people. I know I'm talking very specifically about New England. When I built the website, I built it for New Englanders, but I realized that people from around the country and around the world use this site, and it is a place, New England is a destination, particularly in the fall, because of the way that nature is extended here, the colors of the leaves. It's just an absolutely stunning place for people to vacation or do a weekend trip. So I would, if you're following this and listening in from other parts of the country, I would encourage you to think of our area as a place to visit in the fall. If you're, and of course through this channel, if you love haunted history and paranormal related events and attractions, there's lots of that going on year round in this area. You can find that on Halloween New England. Our site is very tourism friendly in that way. It's meant to really put the information in your hands in the easiest, fastest, and most useful way possible. I don't want you to have to do a lot of digging. It should be easy to find wonderful things that you want to do. I would encourage people to visit our area in the fall if you have the opportunity. It's an incredible place to vacation. If you've never been to New England, those of us who live here forget how we take it for granted that we just go from state to state very easily. The states are smaller, they're very close together. I could sleep in Massachusetts, go to an event in Rhode Island, sleep in Massachusetts, go to an event in New Hampshire, go over to another part, it's very easy to zip from one state to the other within an hour or two. If you are from another part of the country where your state is quite large, you might not realize that you don't have to just pick one state to visit. You could go to Connecticut for a couple days and see what they have to offer. Head over to Rhode Island for a night and then head up to Salem or some other part of Massachusetts, New Hampshire. You can work your way through the region very easily within very short drives. We're not talking full day drives. We're talking like an hour and a half or less. It's very common to find events within 20 miles. Lots of things to happen.
Well, I thank you for sharing everything with us tonight. I will have your website in the description below. I encourage everyone to check that out. If you're coming to New England, make sure you're checking out the different events because it's all in one place.
Jeremy, thanks for
Uh,
having me. I really appreciate you giving me a chance to talk about our beautiful area and the amazing event producers that work so hard to give people a special experience. It's such a labor of love for them. They want to bring people joy this time of year. Thank you for giving me the chance to talk about them and share the beautiful things going on in our area.
oh, not a problem. I love New England, so it was a natural fit. Maybe we can do this again sometime.
I hope so. Every year we'll do a little preview. How's
Yeah.
that?
So the history books close, but some stories refuse to end. They just transform into hayrides, ghost tours, and haunted houses across New England. Keep exploring the shadows, and I'll see you on Saturday.